The first episode that really stood out to me where I knew we were starting to really make a difference was episode 19
Okay.
on July 11th, 2019, which was You Good.
You good? Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And that was where we talked about just being in the habit of saying, hey, how's it going? You doing all right? And people are like, yeah, I'm good. And we just walk by. And we really don't ever stop to listen.
Yes. I'm
Remember
so glad
that
you brought
one?
this up. Yes.
And
yes.
that one, people were like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. And then, like I shared a story, like when I wasn't good and people would ask. And of course, like, I'm good. But like secretly, you're hoping they'll ask you more. And just slowing down and just the impact that one created. Remember, I think we were both like, oh, we hit something here. Like, this is actually working like we thought it might.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because that episode changed my life. And that's part of our mission statement, right? Empowering ourselves and others to live life with more passion and purpose. But that it's crazy that's episode 19 because I feel that I just brought this up a couple months ago when I first found out that my father was diagnosed with cancer. And I was sharing maybe like 10, 12 episodes ago that I got to exercise that of people asking, how are you doing? And me being like, not real good.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing that I could have done because people asked me to talk about it. Like, well, what's going on? And my circle of five, my community, giving me that opportunity just to share was so uplifting for me. So I'm so glad you brought that one up.
It's therapeutic, right? Like we actually get to start being good when we admit we're not good.
Yeah.
And when we fake being good or we lie to be good, to be courteous because we want to burden somebody else, we actually stay not well.
Mm-hmm. And I used to make that mistake of wanting to appear strong.
Yeah.
Wanting to be strong and always being good, not showing any weakness. And that just made me worse.
Absolutely. And honestly, when we hear somebody say they're good and we know doesn't match what saying you're good, but what I see from you doesn't match, when we don't take the time to actually ask them what's going on, we're missing our opportunity to really lead and make a difference in their life.
Amen.
It's just a small thing, right?
It is.
But yeah, that was the first one where I was like, okay, we're going to make a community out of this. Like, it's literally going to work.
Yeah, that's a golden episode. Now I'm thinking, how did I not think of that one? That's a good.
What's yours?
So the first one that I found probably won't come as a surprise to you. Number 27, the value of community.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that we're always coming back to your circle of five, and we always use that term, right? But that also is an indicator generally of your community, the people that you surround yourself. It doesn't have to be exactly 5 people, it could be more or less. And in many episodes, I bring up a study, which I finally, doing the research for episode 100, I finally actually went back to the article. So we may have to link this article for this episode. The Harvard study that's followed thousands of people for nearly 80 years of their life brought up some amazing scientifically proven facts about how important community is. And some of the highlights that I want to talk about is how cholesterol levels in some of these older people in their 80s were less telling of their health than the number of valuable relationships that they had. That's how powerful they can be. And on the negative side, they said that loneliness kills. Isolating yourself can be one of the most damaging things to your health. They said that loneliness is as powerful as smoking or alcoholism.
No, I believe it, and it's still shocking to me that we're not more, or we continue to work on being aware of building a positive community.
Yep.
And which is why we reference it almost every damn episode. Like, who is around you? And are they adding value? And are they helping you? Are they asking the follow-up question when you say you're good and you're not good?
Right. Yeah, so that was huge for me. This is a Harvard study. We're going to link this one, guys, so you can go look. It's a pretty long article, but there's a lot of amazing findings in this 80-year study of following people from all different backgrounds, races, religions, cultures, and it really just talks about how the key to a healthy life and healthy aging is relationships, and the quality of your relationships. That's one of the biggest keys to living a happy and purposeful life is the people and the quality of the relationships you have in your life.
Yeah, it's powerful. The human spirit's powerful. And when we go without it, it just shows that much more, how much more weighted it is in value to us.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm glad you got the study up too. We need a link because we've referenced that so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's actually a real thing.
Right, me too. I was like, did I dream this shit? Or I found it. I was like, oh, thank God.
All right, my next one was episode 57, A Cowboy Church and a Pastor's Fight with Pastor Darren. And that one hit me for a couple of reasons. One is through my work at the gym, I've gotten heavily involved in the Parkinson's community. And more specifically, helping them fight back against a disease that has no cure. And I've seen how embarrassing that disease is to some people, how they'll find shame in the fact that they have it with the visible tremors. And previously, a lot of people, when they got diagnosed, like a lot of the treatments isolated them. And so having Pastor Darren on, when he shared his story of the depression that he felt when he got diagnosed and the crying and the wondering what his life was going to be like, to see him be that vulnerable on such a sensitive topic that so many people deal with quietly, I couldn't have been more honored to have earned another person's trust to that degree. And for him to speak out, and that's one of the highest rated YouTube ones we have. So many people from Parkinson's have come forward, and I can't tell you how many conversations I've overheard in the gym now with other Parkinson's members coming up to him and being like, I didn't know you went through that too. I thought it was just me.
Wow.
That one really resonated with me, and I was like, okay, we're doing something good for other people when we're able to have them trust us enough to share these vulnerable stories that are helping other people realize they're not alone as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a powerful episode. I don't remember verbatim what the quote was, but there was a quote Pastor Darren said that I used in our review. It was something around service.
Yeah.
And that episode had so much in it to where I remember how powerful his story was. And with all of that, it was even more amazing to know that he had this huge battle on his hands, but he's still dedicating his life to serve others.
Absolutely.
Even though he had so much going on, he's still continuously serving.
Yeah.
So yeah, what an amazing guy. I still need to head over to Cowboy Church.
Yeah, I haven't been there either. We told him we'd bring our vehicles over there. I got to take the King Ranch over there.
Let's do it. We got to put a date on the calendar.
Yeah, we got to get there. And honestly, the other thing, the byproduct is I had never really been around a pastor that much in my life. Like I've told you guys on here, I wasn't raised in the church, didn't go to church much, but I find spiritualness from him, right? And just our interactions at the gym, and like I'll read something, I'll ask him what he thinks it means, and just sharing that. And then quite honestly, throughout the COVID stuff, sometimes I would tune into his church broadcast on Sunday mornings when we were all at our house and just listen to his message and see. So it's definitely opened my eyes to some beliefs that I didn't have before.
Yeah. Do you know if it's still broadcast or is
his church? No, they're still on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. NCCC, I think is what it is. Northern Colorado Cowboy Church, N3C.
Okay.
And they do Sundays at 9, like on Facebook Live and on their website. They'll stream it.
All right. I'm putting a note. I'm going to commit.
Yeah, we'll do it. But yeah, that's good. And thank you, Darren, for letting us share that story.
Yes. Thank you very much.
What's your number 2?
So my number 2 is also a guest episode as well, and that was our first guest episode with Rustin Hughes.
Oh,
yeah,
man, I was just with him.
Yeah, I mean, I love that guy, man. I see him every week, and what I really learned from him, not during that episode, but just the way of being, the privilege of being able to interact with him on almost a daily basis. I see Rustin a lot. It was a few things. The philosophy of never, ever giving up, and also not falling into victimhood, because he had so much adversity to where he could have opted to go so many paths, which I think a lot of people would. You know, losing his wife, losing his leg, getting prescribed to all of these crazy drugs. I can only imagine the types of painkillers they give you when someone amputates your leg, and then, you know, you don't have your number one supporter with you anymore. You have all these doctors and now your family being like, you need to take this, you need to take that. And the courage that he had to go to those doctors and be like, these painkillers are fucking me up. I'm getting off of them. And then him being like, you can't do that. And him saying like, I just did, you know, and just everything that he's built since then. I remember we had lunch at Hughes, of course.
Well, you're a VIP, by the way.
Yeah, you know, I got my rewards membership going. And Rustin was, he looked at me and said, Ali, I was more disabled when I had my leg. You know, my mentality, my view on the world, like this has been a blessing to me. And I got goosebumps like through my whole body. I was like, oh my God, like this man here is wearing his prosthetic leg and finding gratitude for all of the adversity that he's had. And you know how many people, it would just be so easy to just want to escape life, you know, fall into alcoholism, fall into the pain, you know, the opioid epidemics. There's so many people that lose this battle with a significant other. You know, he lost so much and never gave up. And not only never gave up, but persevered and has become a leader in our community. You know, now he runs Be Bold, and I proudly support them and got, you know, they were on my last fight, on my fight shorts, Be Bold. I love to go there and help out. And he's changing people's lives with having the Be Bold community, empowered adaptive athletes. I mean, he's traveled the world. He's a global BJJ athlete. He's sponsored by Wells Fargo and TRX as an athlete. He's continuous with the posting. He's continuous at the gym. Yeah. Day in, day out. You know, he's rolling, he's getting after it. And it's just like, wow, like what he does is amazing for anybody to do. But the fact that he has had so much adversity in his life, he would be the type of person to where you could almost give him a pass, right? Like, oh, I get it. You know, like I understand why he's down, or sometimes he plays the victim card, but he never does. He never does, and he finds gratitude, and that was just such a powerful episode to me. And I love that guy. I love you, Rustin, if you listen to this.
You better be listening. But I think you mentioned that same word like 3 or 4 times in there, and that ties back to your number one, the value of his community. He's in a community that's not going to let him just make excuses and sit idly by and agree with them, right? We would challenge him on that or call him out, or, you know, I know when he first moved out here after the death of his wife, and I think it was actually before his leg got amputated, he was actually living with Ryan. Like Ryan opened his house to him and brought him in to make sure he was around the right people. And that is truly the value of community. Now, what if he had chose a different friend to spend all his time with, and all they did is go to the bars and drink? Like, you'd have a totally different story. Yeah. And so we can't emphasize enough who it is that you're around and what impact they have on you. Yeah. All right, I want to throw a curveball at you, though, before we talk about our number one moments. All right, let's curveballs. What is the funniest thing you remember from this whole journey of 100 episodes? Like, when you think about it, you're just like, oh, dude, that was fucking hilarious.
Oh, man, that's hard. That is a tough question.
You want me to share mine first?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'll never forget and quit laughing about this, but it wasn't actually an episode for those of you in the community. When we first started this, we had a different editor, or different producer, I guess you'd call Alex. Nice guy, and you know, he had all the equipment, and he was into podcasts, and so we're like, all right, well, won't you produce our podcast? And he was on board, and one of the assignments, I think actually you gave him the assignment, is like create an email address for us, and then we'll get a website and stuff. And we come into our meeting, and I think it was you or me, I can't remember, one of us is like, onperose.com at Gmail, and we're like, what is on purpose? And he looks at us, he's like, on purpose was taken, so I just took out a P. And I remember we both just kind of made eye contact. We're like, this probably ain't going to work out. You can't just make up your mind.
Was like, I was waiting for the punchline. I was like, there's got to be a joke or something. He's like, yeah, on purpose.
So you guys were almost part of the on purpose community, but
welcome to the On Pros podcast.
But we sadly found out pros isn't actually a word, so we had to add the P in, and then we came up with on purpose .official at Gmail.
Yes.
So that is one. Whenever I'm having doubts or a rough day, I think back to on pros, and I chuck. I think we'll be all right.
That was it. That was a funny moment. That was a funny moment. Man, I don't think I can come up with an absolute funniest. I don't remember what episode this was, but I just remember us cracking up back and forth when we were just doing accents. And I was going off on my Texas accents.
Yeah, dude, you had the Texas accent.
And you were just like crying, man. you were loving it. And
what episode was that?
I forgot, but you kept asking me to do it again.
I tried to get you to do it with Pastor Darren. Yeah, he's an Oklahoma, Texas type dude.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit with Pastor Darren, but it was funny because then for like 5 weeks, every episode, you'd be like, all right, let's get a little country Ali. Like, let's hear that voice again.
Dude, remember, I thought we should do an episode only in accents.
Yeah.
But then my family always critiques. They're like, Dad, you start in one accent, like you're hillbilly for a minute. Next thing we know, you're Irish. Then you're like nothing we've never heard. You're like a combination of a bunch of dumb accents.
Sounds like we got to practice.
Yeah. I got to put in some time.
There you go.
Yeah, no, your accent was hilarious. I forget what episode that was, too.
It had to be a few episodes before Pastor Darren. Because I remember you brought it up again of like, you got to hear Ali's country accent.
Yeah, that's when we were Zoom calling.
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing something.
That was the height of the quarantine and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what was your top one?
Wait, I think you're next. I just gave.
I think I curveball you, dude. I don't get to go first all the time.
So my most recent one that I felt was a very valuable episode was the purpose of vibrating at a high level, and I think I found it so beneficial because a lot of the information in that episode was very new to me. It was information that I had recently come across, and it all resonated in its truth. It makes sense. Like you can go look at frequencies and how sound affects even water and sand and there are also studies that show how these certain levels of frequencies equate to certain emotions. And looking at that scale, it was so many things that opened my eyes about, like one of the biggest realizations for me was realizing that courage is a mid to lower vibration on the scale. And that's because it's associated to what? Fear.
Yep.
Fear, which is a lower one, the low vibrations like fear, anger. So I was like, whoa, courage. And then desire too, seeing that desire, because that's also associated to a feeling of not having, like ungratitude, the opposite of gratitude, right? Desire. So I was like, whoa. So when we're in states of being courageous or desire, that means that we're not operating at these higher frequencies that we can be. So that has really changed up the way that I'm aware of how I'm feeling, and I try to stay in these higher vibrations, and it's been life-changing for the better to have that awareness and knowing of, okay, I'm feeling this way. I know this is a low vibration, which usually is going to result in lower results of what I want. So I need to do something that can increase my vibration, because the longer I can be in higher vibrational states, the more that I'm going to manifest the things that I'm looking to manifest. So that was it. That was a big one for me, and that's episode 94 for our community that wants to go back and listen to that one. That was a game changer for me.
And I agree with that one too, because it's funny, I had been coming across either a quote, either directly or like in line with seek peace over being right. Right. Yeah. And I talked about that in one of our episodes. Like, I've always struggled with that in life. As most of us, we usually want to be right. We don't usually try to seek, okay, how do I have peace in this? And then when we did this episode, peace is one of the top highest vibrations. right? One of the higher vibrations is just being at peace. And I was like, man, that is saying something, right? Like, it's above a lot of other things that you would think would be high vibration. So it's been a focus of mine to make sure, like, every day when I journal and I set out my intentions for the day, it's one of my intentions is to seek peace over righteousness in my conversations, my relationships, and in what I tell myself. Right? And I think that's been huge for me, is even my mental self-talk. With all the craziness in the world, whatever I'm taking in, I always have to reference, am I seeking peace over being right? Or am I seeking information that's just trying to make me feel right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's been wildly, and you even mentioned one day, you were like, you seem so peaceful.
Yeah.
And I think it's truly because I focus on seeking peace, because I know peace has such a good impact on the rest of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have. You really have. Because there was a couple months span there.
Oh, dude, I was losing it.
Where your peace is disturbed.
Yeah, for sure.
You were disturbed by the pandemic and a lot of things, and you weren't at peace. But over the past several months, you've had this aura about you.
Yeah, and I think
you've been doing the work.
Well, I appreciate it. It's just being aware, and you're right, it's work. Mm-hmm. My natural state, dude, I'm as competitive as anybody. I mean, that's how I've gotten where I'm at.
Right.
But like we said in one of the real early episodes, life is about seasons, and I feel like I'm in a season where I need peace. I don't need to compete all the time, and I don't need to be right all the time, because most of the shit I tried to be right about really didn't matter anyhow.
Yeah.
But I spent so much energy to be right. And on the flip side, every time you're right, that means somebody else has to be wrong.
Yep.
And what kind of energy are we creating there if we make somebody wrong? What if we just admit that there's always 2 rights or 3 rights? I don't know. Right? Life isn't math. Life isn't science. It's imperfect. So what I think is right could be different than what you think is right. And why can't we both have those?
Yeah.
And if I'm conversing with you and I'm not trying to change your right, I'm just going to say, here's my thoughts on it. Let me hear yours. I can either agree or disagree. What does it matter?
Yep.
If I just accept them as peaceful.
Yeah.
And that's been huge for me. So I appreciate that episode. I learned a lot from you in that, and just the information you brought to me and the community, I think, is super valuable.
What number was that one?
Oh, it was your episode.
Oh, on the vibrating at a high level?
Yeah.
Okay. So you still have one more then to share.
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay.
I audibled and put you first.
I got you. You lost me on that one. I was like, wait, is this the peace episode or are we talking about? Yeah, no, that.
But
94,
that led to the peace episode.
Right. Yep.
Seeking peace in times of turmoil or something.
Mm-hmm,
right? Like that was a foundational concept of understanding that peace is one of the ultimate high vibrations you can have.
Yeah, that was a discovery for us both. I didn't realize that either.
And I hope the community understands, like, we literally practice what we preach. When we're talking to you, like, we're learning as much as we probably learn more doing this than we ever give to you all.
Yeah.
We try to give it to you, but like, we're learning with you.
Yeah, we're doing the research, we're reading the books, we're listening to the thought leaders on these topics. So this isn't just what Ali and Jared decided to talk about today.
From their basement.
Yeah, that this is really good stuff that has been proven over time.
All right, well, I'm not ready for my number 1.
Okay.
I want to do an honorable mention.
All right.
I got, because I had a tough time on my number 1. And my honorable mention, Zach Mercurio.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was you had met him through some groups, and we brought him on, and he had a quote that I've literally not forgotten. And that was episode 55 back on April 2nd, 2020. And he said that you can't not matter. Talking about people finding their purpose in life. And that when we're feeling hopeless and we're feeling down and out and everything's against us, just stop for a minute and think, like, I can't not matter somewhere. And I just, that one really struck me, because I know a lot of people get lost not knowing where they matter.
Yeah.
And not being part of a community again, or a group that makes sure when you're good, you're really good, not just bullshit me good. And that you can't not matter has literally been how I try to frame the way I greet people at the gym, the way I interact with the clerks at the grocery store, what I talk to my kids about, how I expect them to interact with people they're meeting. It's just care a little bit. right? And like how many times you and I both love go to the grocery store because we talk to clerks and how they enjoy seeing us for nothing other what than we actually ask how their day is, and we talk to them, and maybe that one little conversation lets them realize that I do matter. And maybe I don't do something drastic in my life that night. Or maybe I find hope and I go get help that I need, or I reach out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so... it just hit me that, like, okay, everybody I interact with will never wonder, do I ever matter? Like, they will at least know they mattered for the little bit I'm in their window. Whether it's a bank teller, the grocery clerk, the student walking in and out of the gym. And you've seen it at the gym. Like, you mentioned one time, like, how many times you walk out to leave and, like, there's, like, tearful conversations going on at the front desk and people talking about stuff that you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's talking about that in public. But really, why is that? It's because when they come in, I check on them. When they leave, I try to check on them. And I don't take, oh, I'm good, head down, body language says you're not good, without saying, hey, you sure? Why don't you come here for a second? What's really going on?
Yeah. And you have a great filter for that too, of like, what's going on? You
My
always
lack
have that,
of poker face.
Yeah, you're like, what is it? You know.
But I just choose to, right? Like, literally when Zach said that, I was like, okay, that's got to be one of my purposes moving forward in my life, is I can't have people leave my presence wondering if they matter to anybody on this earth.
Yeah. And I love the story that he gave. It always sticks with me, of how he just had a huge realization when he was working his big marketing job, and he was feeling so down, wasn't enjoying what he was doing, and just so many things in life wanted change. And it ties into the you good, actually, because he said he got in the taxi and the taxi driver asked him, how you're doing. He's like, oh, good, even though he wasn't. And he's like, how are you? And then the taxi driver told him, I'm fantastic, man. I get to be the uncle that kids never have. I got to be the best friend that someone never had. I get to be the long-lost cousin, and hear all of these stories. And he showed Zach, because Zach had admitted that he just expected the taxi driver to be like, oh, just get into the weekend, or just, one of these canned responses that we always give in the social norm of intros. And he was just so taken back and blown away by how much value that this taxi driver found in his career. And that was a pivotal moment for him, of like, wow, like, everybody matters. Every single job role, everyone matters. And even in today's world, like social media, everything that we say, do, post, think, we're putting those ripples out into the world. You matter. You're making an impact no matter what you're doing. Yeah.
That was good. And that, and I challenge our community, and I share this with all the communities that I get to help influence, is make sure that who you interact with, they never wonder if they matter to anybody else. Like, if they interact with you, they should know they matter to at least one person. And that's you.
All right, so what's your top one?
My top one, honestly, is one of the more recent ones. I think it's episode 98, something about the victimhood mentality. And here's why I like that one. That was one of the first times that I didn't feel like you kind of sometimes, I don't want to say a political correct tone, but a very, like, middle of the road tone. But on that one, you just fucking let loose. And I was like, this is what I'm talking about right here, right? Because literally, like, we're living in a society where people are flaunting, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that, and everybody feels so sorry for them. What can I do? Well, how about you say, okay, I'm sorry that happened. Let's get on our feet and get fucking moving again. Yeah. And I forget, you said some stuff, and I was like, ooh, this is all we got fired up on this one.
Yeah.
And I think truly your tougher words, I'd say, tougher, maybe not rougher, maybe a little less refined, just a little more just like raw, like emotion, is exactly what many people need. It's kind of like a kick in the ass. Like, I think sometimes they think I'm going to say something like that, and then all these going to smooth it out with some Harvard study. And when you came at him, I was like, my work is done here. But it was good because it was very like I listened to it, and I was like, okay, if I was down, if I was having a bad day, I would get up and go do something if I just heard that. You know what I mean? So for me, I love that. One, the message is critical, especially in this time of society. But two, to watch your growth. Like, that was one where I was like, fuck, all these, like, literally going to lead lots and lots of people.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just moments, and maybe it's reflective because we're almost at 100. But when I sat and watched it, I was like, you've learned from me, and it's almost like the torch is ready to pass. Like, you're ready to lead all your own people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like when we started, like, I felt we were learning each other and going, and, like, you know, you might not say something because you're like, I don't know what Jared's going to say on this one, but, like, right there, I just felt like, man, we just broke through any barriers we may have had. So selfishly, I think it's awesome for our growth. Two, for you guys, I think the message is fantastic. And three, it was like a proud, like, mentor moment that I'm like, he's got this shit. He's ready to lead people.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because it's been a journey for me for many years, from getting into the cannabis industry and being scared to really share everything that I'm doing, and then even more on just society. It's so hard to speak or share or post without to be raw like that, because there's just so many barriers around that of victimhood, right? Of like, no, you need to be compassionate, and you need to have all these things, which, don't get me wrong, there's a place for all of these things. There's a place for refined messages. There's a place for being diplomatic. But yeah, I guess it was just one of those moments where I felt really called and passionate that this is a message I wanted to bring, and that I had been feeling as well, of let's be real.
Yeah.
You know, let's share that, because I've been in victimhood too. I've been a victim.
Yeah.
You know,
everybody has.
Everybody
when
has.
we agree that we've all been victims, then we quit looking for why are we the only victim.
Right.
And we start looking for, just like we talked about in an episode, if everybody's been a victim, let's look for how do we succeed.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Shit,
No,
thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I went home and I told Andrea that night, I was like, all these grown so much in this. And it was just because, you know, like we've talked about, coaching is not cheerleading. And it's easy to cheerlead, right? Because then you only tell people what they want to hear. And quite honestly, a lot of programs out there charge a lot of money to have accountability groups and mentoring, but they don't really change your behavior. They just reinforce what you already think you know, and you're paying for reinforcement. But for you to be able to deliver that kind of message, to call people out and be like, no, like, you need to stop here, and here's why. That's what changes lives.
Yeah.
Because it gives people power again. It gets back in action. And I think, when I saw that, I was just like, that was fucking awesome.
Love it. Well, thank you.